Hat, no hat. Alright, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Probably wondering why I'm in a different setup. Reason being is that I've moved home from college for the summer and I will be filming from what is my basement. Today I will be talking about SD cards and how to read all the different symbols on there so that you can make a more informed buying decision in the future. But first, let's roll the intro. So getting into it, companies display a lot of information on cards. There's things like 64 gigs, 2000 kilobytes, UHS 1, UHS 2, Class 10, SDXC, all these different things. Today I'm going to help you figure out what all those symbols mean and how to read them so that you can get a card that's just right for you. Let's get into it. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the maximum read speed of the card. This is going to be shown by a little symbol, depends where it's placed on the brand. It's usually going to say somewhere around 100 megabytes a second, 300 megabytes a second, things like that. It's important to note that the maximums aren't going to be the main thing to look at as we get further into the video. Minimums are going to be the thing that are very important. There's a lot of different factors that determine how they got that maximum, and a lot of times it's not going to be fully realized in the card. So next we're moving on to another form of read in the card. It is going to be the read speed of the card denoted by kilobytes. This will be shown by usually a very big number. It'll say something like 2000x, 1000x, something like that. Kilobytes is used more in the sense of CDs and older age memory storage. It doesn't really matter today when we're thinking more in the sense of megabytes. It is on there just to give you another form of the read speed, but it doesn't actually mean anything's added to the card. It is the same as the megabytes a second, just a little bit different way to see it. Next we're moving on to card type. So we have things like SD, SDHC, SDXC. Those are going to all be formed into the slot of SD cards. If you hear UHS 1, UHS 2, those are also going to be in SD card. I'll also get into what all those SDs mean in a minute when we talk about capacity. There's a lot of other things like micro SD, be smaller, usually for GoPros or drones, CF Express and XQD. Those are used in your cameras and they're a lot faster. They're also a lot more expensive. It's really important to know what card you need for whatever card slot you're using it for. In my camera, my Nikon Z6 II, I have a CF Express Type B slot and I also have an SD slot. Just make sure that you are buying an SD card if it's an SD card you need. CF Express, micro, all these things. So moving on to the write speeds of the card, we have three main things that will determine the write speed of the card. So the first one is the UHS Speed Class rating. This is going to be shown by a little graphic that has a U and then a number inside. Basically the number determines the minimum write speed of the card. So if you have a 3, it's going to be 30 megabytes a second minimum at all times, 2, 20, 10, so on. This is important because it means that the card will never write slower than that sustained speed. So if you're taking bursts of raw files, for me on a 24 megapixel camera, those files are going to be about 48 megabytes big. If my card's writing at 30 megabytes a second minimum, my buffer's probably going to have a hard time filling up. It's important that you keep that stuff in mind when you're thinking about buying a card, what type of shooting you do, and how fast you need the card to be so you don't fill up that buffer and you don't miss the shot. Next, when we move on to the regular speed class, this is going to be another form of write speed that the card is showing us. It's going to be shown by a number in kind of a half circle. Unfortunately, this unit is a little outdated since C10 is going to be the maximum in this unit. C10 means that it has a minimum write speed of 10 megabytes a second at all times. When I think about this card, it has a UHS class of U3, so that means that it's going to be a minimum write speed of 30 megabytes a second at all times. So this class 10 doesn't really tell me much because I know that the minimum write speed is already faster than the class 10. Companies still put it on there just because it's kind of an old unit that's been on there for a long time. Next, we're looking at the video class rating. This is going to be shown by a V followed by a number to the right of it. This graphic is going to be a really important one to keep in mind. This is going to be the minimum write speed for video. With my Lexar Gold here, this has a video class rating of 90, so that means that it's going to write no slower than 90 megabytes a second while recording video. With the card that I have in my Nikon right now, it has a V30 rating, so that means it's writing no slower than 30 megabytes a second, and I'm doing 4K video, and I haven't had any issues with it buffering up or timing out on me or anything. For video, if you are going to be doing 4K, 30 megabytes a second is going to be the minimum that I would suggest, just because you're not going to have any problems with that, and it's going to be really helpful just to not have to worry about that. Going into another write speed graphic, we're going to be looking at two different types of cards. So we're looking at UHS 1 and UHS 2. UHS 2 tends to be the faster of the two. It's built a little bit different on the hardware, and you can tell by looking at the back prongs of the card. You can also tell by looking on the front of the card and and you'll see Roman numerals. You'll either see what looks like a 1 or a 2. That's going to also determine the UHS category of the card. Thinking about UHS 1 versus UHS 2, like I said, UHS 2 is going to be faster with a maximum read speed of 312 megabytes a second, where UHS 1 has a maximum read speed of 104 megabytes a second. It's important to know that that doesn't mean what your card's going to be. It's mainly just breaking it up into UHS 1 and UHS 2. So there's going to be a wide range of cards in there, but it's saying that the max for each card is going to be those speeds respectively. Getting to the end of it, capacity is going to be one of the easier things to see on the card. It's usually shown by a big number followed by a gigabyte or a terabyte. So this is where I said I'd talk a little bit more about SD cards and how they're categorized. So SD cards have a maximum storage of 2 gigabytes. SDHC goes anywhere from 2 gigabytes up to 32 gigabytes. And then SDXC is going to be anywhere from 32 gigabytes all the way up to 2 terabytes is the biggest one I've seen. So my final thoughts and just recommendations for cards. I use Lexar in all of my cards. That's not to say that other brands like SanDisk, Samsung aren't going to be good cards. I just like Lexar because it's a little bit more uniform and I've never had problems with them. Never lost files, never had buffering, and they have a really wide array of cards in their lineup. So I recommend looking at Lexar. If you're interested in buying some Lexar cards, go check out the link in the descriptions down below. It's important to have quality cards than to be on a job and you're buffering and having problems with that right away. Otherwise, like I said, really keep in mind what type of shooting you're going to be doing. That's going to be the most important thing to keep in mind when thinking about buying a card. So that's about all you need to know with the SD cards and how to read them. Hopefully this gives you some good information to make an informed purchase down the line and find the card that is going to be right for your type of shooting. If I forgot anything, please let me know in the comments down below. I'll try to get back to you and get you the information that you need. As always, please like and subscribe the video down below. Follow me at finnhartnett.net on Instagram, and I will see you in the next one.